Hi, everyone, and a really warm welcome to our first Loyalty Connect session of the day, our keynote, which has a title that I absolutely love, Loyalty Programs, Why Bother? For those of you just joining us, I'm Jane Stevens, Director of Marketing at Loyalty Line, and I'm thrilled to be hosting this session because our speaker, Adam Posner, is someone that I've been following for a long while now. I've thoroughly enjoyed each and every conversation we've had in the run-up to this presentation, and I genuinely believe that we're all going to walk away from this session having learned a lot and with some really tangible actions that we can put into practice right away. So let me tell you a little bit more about our speaker. Adam is the founder and CEO of The Point of Loyalty, a strategic consultancy that helps businesses increase the care and currency of their existing customers. He's been a data-driven marketer for over 24 years and has designed and deployed loyalty and retention initiatives for brands large and small around the world. He's a published author and a regular commentator on all things loyalty and retention. We're extremely lucky to have Adam with us today to talk us through whether or not you need a loyalty program, what value it could deliver to your business, and how to make your program meaningful and desirable for your customers. So without further ado, Adam, the floor is yours. Over to you.
Thanks so much for the kind introduction, Fiona, and a very big thank you to you and the team at Loyalty Lion for inviting me here today to present at Loyalty Connect. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on the globe, and welcome to Loyalty Connect's wonderful conference of amazing speakers and insights. And for today's first presentation, Loyalty Programs, Why Bother? I'm here today to share with you some ideas on loyalty programs. For those of you who have a program, I'll provide you some insights to lift your loyalty programs out of the sea of sameness. For those of you thinking about a program and you're not quite sure why you should bother, I'll provide you with some ideas to help you make a decision either way. And for those of you working in the technology, consulting, or other areas of our exciting and growing loyalty industry, I hope you find a nugget or two to help you and your clients. By the end of today's presentation, my goal is to give you some actionable ideas and insights so that when you leave today's presentation, you can actually do something. Whether a strategy of a program is right for your business or not, you will have some clarity by the end of today. I'm also going to give you specifically 9 reasons to bother with a program, 11 revenue opportunities to consider, and 6 currencies of collection that will make your customers bother about a program. Specifically, I'm going to help you answer this question. Do you really need a loyalty program? And I'm going to give you our diagnostic with the 9 goals for a loyalty program for you to decide which of these you would like to achieve for your program. Secondly, I'm going to give you the 11 revenue opportunities in a program. It's a menu, and not all of them will be relevant, but at least you have a menu from which you can choose. Also, what are the costs to consider? And the ultimate goal, as I call it, the ROLP, the return on loyalty program investment. And I'm going to finish off with the 6 currencies that loyalty program members care about, with a bit of a secret sauce. And that's a framework that I've been researching and developing, and I'm going to share with you some examples in real life in the market that follow the 6 currencies. My goal is to help you lift your programs out of what I call the sea of sameness. But before you go on that journey, every program needs a strategy. And we've developed what we call the Wheel of Loyalty Program Fortune, which is our 7-zone strategy that helps program managers develop their strategies around where they can profit and how they can build the program's performance. And I'm briefly going to give you these 7 zones and then share with you where some of the insights today will fit. So number 1, they're called the business zone. This is all about, which will help answer today, why do you need a program? What are your goals? What are your measures of success? How will you measure success? What's your vision for the program? And where's the revenue opportunities? That's the business zone. The second zone is all about your customers becoming members of your program. Who are they? What is their behavior? Do they believe and love your brand and your business? And what about their sense of belonging? So it's all about understanding your customers, their value, to your business and their belief and their belonging. And then it's about the program proposition, the actual structure. So I'm all about strategy before structure, but this is where the structure comes in. This is where you design a meaningful and desirable proposition that your customers will become members and really want to engage with. And then profitability has its own zone. This is about modeling your financials around your program, because I believe a program is a growth asset and it needs to provide a net profit to the business. And so we help brands build flexible financials around profit and loss, cash flow, and balance sheets for their loyalty programs. And then it's all about enablement and the wonderful people at Loyalty Lion and their technology, plus the data and how that enables your program. Is it fit for now and for the future? What about your communication or your dialogue, as I call it? Dynamic and personal communication is a key benefit of a program and needs to come out of the enablement process. And don't forget the last, and that's your team. The team behind your program, not only internally, but if you have stores, what are they? How do they believe and buy into your program? So the 7 zones of loyalty program fortune are sitting right there in front of you now, and where you should build your strategy from. Specifically today, I'm going to give you 9 goals that fit into the business zone, and you can set your goals and your measures of success from that. I am going to share with you the 6 currencies that form a program structure. Now, these are not the only elements, but I'm going to give you those today as well. And finally, I'm going to give you a top-line view of the revenue and the costs to consider in building profitability. So those are 3 of the 7 pieces or the 7 zones that I'll share with you today. We have got a lot to get through in the next 30-odd minutes, so I'm going to scoot along. But I just want to share with you 1 or 2 things that I'm not going to go into today. One is, I'm not going to say how many brands across the globe have a program, because they're thousands, if not tens of thousands. I'm not going to tell you how much the loyalty industry is valued at. Last time I found it was in the billions, 7.4 to be, or 7.8 billion that I found. And finally, I'm not going to go through a range of different programs and share with you their value that they get and how their members love their programs, because that will be doing you a disservice. Every category is different. Every buying behavior is different. Every brand is different. And so you would be going down the wrong path if you compared yourself to others. This is about you and your program and your strategy if you want a program. So let's get into, do you really need a loyalty program? But before I do, a little bit of anticipation here, I want to bust a myth. And that myth is loyalty is not a program. What is loyalty? So in all my 15 plus years in loyalty industry and loyalty programs, I often get asked, we need loyalty. And I say, well, what do you mean? Oh, we need a program. So I've been researching what loyalty actually is. And loyalty to a brand is an outcome. It's not a program. Loyalty to a brand is based on 3 intersecting fundamentals. It's based on behavior, which is all about the mountains of money, as I call it. So that's about influencing buying behavior. How much do they spend? How often? Over the longer term, when competitors are at their heels trying to get them away from you. So it's all about the behavior of your customers. Then it's about their belief. How much do they love your brand, trust your brand, and would recommend or refer it to a family or friends? So that's the emotional loyalty. Behavior is the transactional loyalty. And then the one that's often missing is what I call belonging loyalty, which is really where they get your purpose and they identify with your purpose as a brand. And then they connect with the community that you have behind your brand. And so those are the 3 loyalty outcomes. That is what I call the loyalty peak. But I'm not going to go into a lot more detail except to share with you that and bust that myth that loyalty is not a program. And you really need to be clear on what loyalty means to your brand across those 3 dimensions. All righty. Now it's time for a bit of work. Now, I was asked to do this presentation today, but this is not a Netflix presentation where you can sit back and just relax. This is a little bit of a working session now in this first part. So if you've got a piece of paper and a pen, or if you like to do the old style, I'm now going to give you a diagnostic with some questions for you to answer. But I do suggest you lean forward and have a go at answering these questions. So let's go. All right. There are 9 goals that I have identified over the years as to why brands have a program. clearly number one is revenue. Then it's about customer retention. And then I often hear about we want to recognize our customer, as I call it, recognition, drive advocacy or referrals and recommendation, acquiring new customers, data, differentiation, a point of difference in your brand, a dialogue or communication platform, a pricing strategy within your program. Now, these are all goals that I've heard before, and now I'm going to get you to rank and rate them as to how important they are to your brand and your business for a program. So each one I'm going to have to ask you a little question. You either decide whether 1, it's not important, or 5, it's very important. Let's go. So number 1, revenue. Do you want a program to motivate your existing customers to spend more? 1, not important. 5, very important. More meaning basket size, get them to spend more. Do you want to motivate your existing customers to purchase more often, which is all about frequency, from 1 times to 2 times to 3 times, whatever the period is? Do you want that from your program? Is that a goal? 1, important. 5, not important. What about retaining your best customers? Would you like a program to be driven to drive retention of your best? 1, not important. 5, very important. On the other side, you want a program to reduce customer churn. That's often been shared with me from certain brands as they think a program can help reduce churn, and it can if structured properly. So 1, not important. 5, very important. Recognition. Do you want a program to recognize and reward your most valuable customers? You've got to be careful with that one, because who are your most valuable, and what does recognition and reward look like? So 1, not important. 5, very. Advocacy. Programs are known to motivate members and customers to recommend the brand. So do you see the program, which is the most exciting, dynamic program, and people tell others all about it, and they come to your brand? What about thinking about a program as a tool, strategy, technique, whatever you want to call it, to acquire new customers to your brand? Be careful with this one, because programs generally are there for retaining existing and growing existing customers rather than just acquiring new. However, it is part of a goal for many programs. Do you want a program because you want more of a deeper understanding of your customers, who they are, when they buy, what they buy, how often they buy, anything more about their data and their behavior? Is that a main motivation for your program? 1, important. 1, not important. 5, very important. What about a program that adds a competitive point of difference in your environment? Back to the scale, decide how important it is. A program that then you can develop an amazing communication platform for a personalized customer dialogue. Again, score it and then decide. And finally, pricing. That's an interesting one. I've had times with brands come to me saying, we've got a lot of incentives, promotions, and discounting. Can we build a program to help reduce discounting and yet still give value back to customers? So the strategy is around pricing. And any other reasons that I haven't mentioned, and there are others, but these are the 9 most common, or 11 by the little extras that I've identified. But if you've got other reasons, by all means, put them in your own little scale and work it out. Now, obviously, it's not an interactive session, and I can't get to hear who said what or what your priorities are, but this is a great tool for you to use amongst your team to get clarity on why you want a program. And from that, you can form your measures of success. The most important question out of all of this, because there's a lot, and some people say, I want them all, and I've heard that too often, but what is your priority? This is the hard question to ask yourselves. Please select only 1 of the 11, from 1 down to 11, the most important reason for your program. That'll help you guide the focus into the future. And yes, you can achieve some of the others. Some of them are outcomes, but if you get an absolute focus, you will be very clear as to why you have a program. Let me bring it all together in a little infographic for you. So you start with your program proposition, which is a proof point of your brand. And although that's small, that's a critical dimension. Your program needs to live off the vision of your brand and prove through how you execute it that it is part of your brand. So it is a value proposition and a value exchange promise to your customers so that they become members, and in essence, they hand over their data. Now, the data then forms insights and intelligence, either customer intelligence or business intelligence, and even business intelligence like how your team engages, your suppliers' involvement, merchandising of product and pricing. So intelligence comes out off the back of the data. You then have the platform for dialogue. And here you have the most amazing asset from which you have a known, controlled, and owned asset. I'll just say that again. You have a known, controlled, and owned asset, because a loyalty program is a known, you know your customers, you know who they are. You control the communication and the various strategies that go through it. And it's an owned channel. When I mean by owned, you don't own the customer, but you own the asset. And it's different than when you rent from social media. So here you are the landlord. With social media, you're renting. They can change their algorithms and their metrics anytime, and you're the renter and have to change accordingly. Now, I'm not saying at all, and I know this is recorded, I'm not saying that social media strategies aren't part of the whole mix, but I am saying that a loyalty program is a known, controlled, and owned asset across different channels from which to drive more dollars to your business. As long as you know what you're measuring, then you can get the revenue from your frequency and your lifetime value, and average transaction value increases. You're retaining your customers, which is a value, recognizing them, and ultimately return on loyalty program investment. Get advocacy out of the back of your program if you do a great job and have an amazing program for recommendations and referrals. It can be a competitive differentiator, and ultimately also a new customer acquisition tool of some kind. So I'll take a breath there for 1 minute, in fact, less than a minute, a few seconds, and just let that sink in with you as to answering the question, do you really need a loyalty program? Hopefully the diagnostic and this process has given you a bit more of a direction as to why a program might be an asset for your business, if you're thinking of one, or if you've currently got a program, making sure you're measuring the goals that you've set for your program. Let's move into the second part of today, which is where's the revenue and what are the costs? And ultimately towards that holy grail of return on loyalty program investment. Just in terms of reference, revenue does come from a lot of the goals, although the main one is number one, clearly revenue, but I'll share with you 11 revenue opportunities that a program can provide. As I mentioned earlier on, this is a menu. It doesn't mean every program has these. In fact, some programs just rely on the number one, and that's okay. The number one revenue, which is what I call incremental growth revenue. So this is something you really need to think about, because this is all about your member AOV, or average order value, is a percentage more than before being a member. And now I'm going to be careful in explaining this, because it's not about non-members versus members. Most times people say, oh, my non-members, they spend less than my members spend so much more. And so your members should, because they're the ones who joined the program. So you've got to be careful about that measure. Now, I don't believe in member versus non-member measuring. I believe in members increasing their spend because of the program. And so how can you incrementally shift them through the program and the proposition and the benefits to spend a bit more, spend lift, or incrementally come that extra time through the program, the frequency shift. And so if there's just one part of your program that you get right, that'll be the most important impact on revenue, incremental growth. Retained revenue is actually a measure in terms of those best customers that you have and that you keep. I often get asked, well, we have a lot of high spenders or highly loyal members, why should we even reward those? They come to us anyway. And my answer is that you want to retain those. In fact, you want to invest in keeping them. And so retained revenue is a measure, and you don't want to return them, or you want to increase their lifetime value over a period. Referred revenue can come off the back of a program. So how many of your members are referring others into your program or into your business, and they should be attributed to your program across your average order value. Your renewed revenue, I call this jam on the ground. Some people call it low-hanging fruit. This is when you can reactivate inactive, lapsed, or dormant customers or members. And so renewed revenue should be measured where you can, so that you can influence it and add it to your revenue opportunities. Rewards revenue. This is really dependent on what kind of rewards you offer your members. If you've got a catalog of product or gift cards or various others, certainly there is a cost you buy them at. You can make an extra margin on that, and that can be extra revenue that your program can derive. Now, that's a little bit trickier and needs a lot more planning and thinking, but rewards revenue is certainly a part of revenue generation. Acquisition revenue. This is all about attributing where you can new customers to the brand that your program has generated. Usually comes off a referral-based opportunity within a program, but you need to attribute that to your program. So a lot of these are attributed revenues rather than directly driven by the program. However, if you measure them, then you can impact them. So acquisition revenue is another. Partner revenue is an absolute revenue generator for programs. They've become such a powerful asset that if you go to the right kind of partners and you've got an amazing base of engaged members, well, partners can pay for the privilege to access your member base, and that is revenue. Partner revenue, top line into your business, into your program, should be accounted for. Supplier revenue, absolutely. If you've got a brand that has many brands that you sell, I think of pharmacy, I think of grocery, but if you don't have your own brands or you're a wholesaler of others, it's those FMCG brands or suppliers that can access your member base to, again, like a media channel. And supplier funding is a big part of many programs where that kind of business has that kind of structure and should be accounted for. And finally, people often think this is separate, but a subscription revenue, if you've got a subscription tier or even a subscription program, clearly there's a revenue in that, either one-off or if it's ongoing, and you need to build that in. So this is your little menu of revenue. There are 11 of them. Again, not all of them might make sense, but absolutely the first one is the go-to, and the rest you can work out whether it's right for your program and your strategy. There's another one that's interestingly come up more recently, is that brands say to me, we have a lot of other extra marketing things we're doing and discounts we're giving away and activity and productivity issues going with getting promotions out. Can't we bring these into the program? And absolutely you can, and then get some savings out of that marketing efficiency, which should be added into your profitability of your program. So what are your costs? Clearly you would have reward costs. If you've got any discounts you're giving away or product or whatever it is, gifts, that's going to cost you, whether they're ongoing costs or one-off, you need to put them into your program cost structure. You've then got your system or tech costs from setup to ongoing. They need to be apportioned within your program. You've also got marketing costs, set up and ongoing, and you've got people costs. Not many people, brands allocate people costs into their program. I believe you should, but that's up to you in terms of how you allocate costs to your program. So you have revenue, you have costs, and you have return on loyalty program investment. It looks simple and you start from here, but a financial model is a key part of the process and needs a little bit of work and more expertise around it. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of a framework from which to start getting the ROLP on your mind and into your strategy. Let's finish off with the last part of today for the next 5 or so 6 minutes on the 6 currencies loyalty program members care about, plus the secret sauce. Now, I love this framework. It looks a little bit like Maslow's hierarchy, and to a certain extent it does, but it's based on the 6 currencies of collection that loyalty programs members care about that I developed a few years ago, and then put to research over the 11 years of me doing research on loyalty programs. And I've published a study called For Love or Money over the last 11 years. And in my recent study, I looked at the 6 currencies and the 62 benefits behind them. And that research report is still available for those if you want to purchase it from my site. However, I'm going to share with you some more details on those currencies. At the base level, we have money, financial. It's in the language of the customer, show me the money. This is all our programs that reward and remunerate customers with financial benefits such as discounts, cashback, earning points for rewards, and members-only pricing. Fundamentally, a financial reward or benefit. Show me the money. The next is memory or experiences. This is all about more than money. This is add moments of magic to my life. You'll hear that a little bit later. Again, moments of magic to my life with experiences such as gamification, special events, limited releases, gifts, partner offers, surprise, and delight. Just a few ideas behind memory. Then we have time or functional, the utility, save me time, make life easy for me. Programs that make my life easy, such as providing digital receipts, an app, easy payment, easy support hotline, anything that makes my life easy within the program is time or functional. The me currency is all about my ego and and exclusivity. You always remember that ultimately, if you've got the data, you want to make them feel special. So this isn't about show me that you know me and make me feel special. Programs that make me feel special and demonstrate they know me through tiering, personal comms, tailored exclusive offers, product recommendations on previous purchases. So good data, tiering, and goes in here. Choice. This is a new currency. This is about control. Let me choose my rewards. Don't tell me that I've got a birthday gift and it's only this. I can't have anything else but this. Give me some choice on how I can redeem, such as my choice of birthday gift or choice from a catalog. And finally, we have us or social, which is connect me with a community or a cause. So programs that connect me with other people, causes such as member forums, opportunities, donate, rewards, charity, and so on. So there are the 6 currencies. And from research, I've identified that clearly financial is absolute important to every program, and members always want a financial benefit. But second, and if you're guessing which came second when we asked in our research, the reveal is that it's choice. They want choice as part of their currencies of collection. But they do want all of those. So you need to think about which of those are important to your brand and your business. A couple of quick examples before we move on. And these are from Wild Rewards. We have a tiered program with a range of points that you can earn through different actions, and they've got tiering. But interestingly, you can donate your rewards to different ways of planting trees or helping the environment. So when we look at that one, we look at their 6 currencies, and it's a beautiful one because it covers all of the 6, from points for purchase to points for interactions, all the way down for choice and redemption, because you can redeem in different ways. It's tiered, it's easy to sign up in seconds, and there's a birthday, amongst other things that I'm sure they do. The Junk-Free Food from Edgard and Cooper, a great site with a beautiful program for their dogs and cats, which has points. You can sign up in a few seconds, very easy. It's great tone of voice, complete challenges, earn belly rubs for good behavior, great experiences, level up, tiers, choose your reward with a great number of choices, whether you want to take the discount or share it with everyone else. I mean, other causes. Beautiful program, well put together, great tone of voice, and covers all 6 currencies of collection. Points for purchase all the way up to points for purpose. Now, I want to finish off for the last couple of minutes on joyalty, my favorite word and my word of the year, last year, this year, and into the future. So what is joyalty? Joyalty is your customer's feeling of maximum joy and delight from one or a series of moments of magic delivered by your brand. Moments of magic, otherwise known as MOMs. So what are they? In essence, they surprise and delight. However, you go a little bit further because they are giving your customer that moment of joy and delight. I've written a white paper on this. It's freely available from my website. There are a lot more examples and a strategy on how to put a joyalty into your program. But I'll just give you some examples here. A little bit of chocolate and a note on the pillow when I arrived at the hotel. That's a joyalty moment of magic. What about a little chocolate? Again, chocolate, that's a beautiful way to win your customer's heart. In Adore Society, which is Adore Beauty, an online beauty business that gives their members in their delivery a little chocolate biscuit that their members absolutely love. In fact, a little quick story, when they once wanted to take away, their members went crazy. So it's just a moment of magic. All these little handwritten notes from a very big grocery group called Woolworths, which in their online orders, they actually wrote a personal note and saying, congratulations on your 100th order. Now that's using data, or your first order with a chocolate bar. So handwritten and thanking them for their order. Beautiful moment of magic. Or this one from McDonald's. Well, if you read carefully what they say, hello, we've seen that you placed your order from the hospital. Hope you're keeping well. Your order is on us. Very clever, a great signal in the data. Yeah, look, let's not talk about McDonald's specifically, but just the actual idea of using the data to create a joyalty moment of magic. I love this from Rip Curl, which is a surf brand, and their loyalty program, which is a points program, actually connects to a watch with a GPS tracking surfing and giving them points for catching waves. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant way of turning points into interactions in a sport that the people love and then they earn off the back of riding waves. Just a great idea and a loyalty example. So what about your brand and your program? What can you do to add loyalty to your members' experience? So we're just about on time now, and we've finished up with the summary, and then we'll close off with some questions. So hopefully I've given you and prompted you with some ideas and insights on loyalty programs and why you should bother. I've shared with you, do you really need a program, and the 9 reasons to give you clarity as to why you would want a program or have a program. Where's the revenue and what are the costs? Always be clear on those so you can generate a positive return on loyalty program investment. And think about the 6 currencies that your loyalty program members care about and that secret sauce called loyalty. This is where they fit in. They fit in the business zone, the program zone, and the profitability zone. And so with that, I'm going to leave you now with some actions. Number 1, set your goals. What goals will you set for your program if you have one? How will you measure them? And if you don't have a program and want one, what are your goals and how will you measure them? Where's the profit? And make sure, please, to measure it and to attribute the right elements to your profitability. And finally, your customer currencies, which are relevant for your brand, for your customers, and the loyalty factor. So with that, I want to say thank you very much for allowing me to present at the beginning of this conference, and thanks to Loyalty Lion for today. And I think we'll just go over to some questions now.
Adam, where do I even start? I'm just looking at my notes and I've got too many highlights that I want to pick out. It's not the first time that I've been left wishing I had my own e-commerce brand. I really wanted to get involved in those diagnostics. But I think most of all, thank you for bringing the word loyalty into my vocabulary. I absolutely loved those examples. I'm still trying to decide between McDonald's delivering to the hospital and Rip Curl as my favorites there. So
no, thank you.
Thank you so much insight there. Time is ticking on, so we'll jump straight into some of the questions that we've received from the audience. Our first one here is from a skincare brand. Our most loyal customers are already loyal. They're already repeat purchasing. So how do we incentivize them to spend or engage more? It's interesting. We get asked this quite a lot on demo calls and things. Some people do have a loyal and engaged customer base. So how do you work with that if you're not starting from scratch?
Yeah, it is a very common question, and one that over time I've also heard similar to you. So first, back to the initial myth up us, which is, what does loyal mean? So by definition, get clear that your loyal customers are potentially your most valuable. They spend the most and most often, and you've got the data on who their most valuable are. So you want to retain them. So that's the retention goal, because you want to keep them spending more and more often. And maybe they've got a little bit of lift in them because they might be maxed out. They might have spent, in their category with you the most. You don't know that unless you've got market share data. But the big thing about them is you want to retain them, and you want to love them, and you want to give them more loyalty, because then they'll stay and keep spending. And that's the strategy for the most loyals. So, it's quite simple. Retain the best, as I say, grow the rest. And the most loyals are there for you to retain.
Absolutely. And I guess it is about that engagement between those purchases as well. As you say, they may have maxed out for the month. They may not have anything left to spend. So how else can you keep them engaged and coming back and actually add, maybe it's the advocacy piece and helping you out that way in the interim.
Yeah, and just keep saying thank you in without overdoing it, and those surprise and delight moments, or loyalty as I call it, so that they keep feeling valued. That's the most important on those. So yeah, makes perfect sense. Thank you. The next one is actually from one of my favorite swimwear brands. How do you know when it's time to upgrade your loyalty program, and where do you start in terms of identifying which elements you should upgrade? Yeah, that is a really important question in the world of loyalty programs, because there's never a set and forget. So you've got to look for the what I would call the signals of success, and the points, or what I call the points of failure, pain points of failure. So what are your signals of success? And really, if you're measuring success of your program, what's declining and what's increasing in terms of all your measures? And so there are many measures to a program, but what are those signals? Even things like unsubscribes, what's going on with your comms? Your drop off in growth of new members coming to your program. What's going on there? So you've got to look for those lead signals in order to then, fix those gaps. I call it, you do need to do a gap analysis. And also, my big suggestion is ask your members. Evolve your program. The world is changing all the time. They might want more or other things outside of what you offer. You might want partners to bring in, but ask your members. Do research at least every 6 months. Ask your members what they want, because often the best ideas aren't within your four walls. They come from your members. So I guess those are my two big tips. Actually, I've got one more, and that's actually a new one. Go to your complaints department or customer service and ask what your customers and or members are worried about, and look for areas there to fix.
That's a very good point, actually. And especially the more you've got sort of online help desks that are picking up those shorter, sharper questions as well. Fantastic. And just to dig in slightly, you mentioned bringing in partners. Do you mean sort of product partnerships, or how would you get
product or brand partners? So you might have, I don't know, let's just take that example you just gave me of I think it was, what brand was it that you just mentioned? A swimwear brand.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So what complementary products that they don't sell, brands that they can come to that brand and say, we've got some great brand, it complements your base. Can we reach out to them? That's what I mean by partners. I mean product partners, offer partners, other brands that add value to your member base.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Fantastic. And it's great to see more brands are working in collaboration like that.
Yeah, that's a big strategy. Partner strategies within Loyalty programs is pretty much a go-to strategy these days.
And I love that you suggest asking your customers. I think quite often we forget, in any other area of marketing, it's one of the first things you would do is customer research. And yet for loyalty, I think we often forget that it can operate in the same way with the same marketing principles behind it.
Yeah. And also, just another one, ask your team. So if you've got a store team, if you're just an e-com player, and you then obviously got internally, but I do both. We do internal studies, asking everybody internally, especially if there's customer-facing team members, because they hear all the time what what members are asking or talking about or wanting. And so if you do an internal study and external study, you look at the data, suddenly you've got all these data points from which to lift your programs out of the sea of sameness, as I say.
Absolutely. And from people shopping online and offline as well. It's like slightly different perspectives. Fantastic. Absolutely.
Different kind of customer behavior. Yeah.
Totally. Absolutely. Brilliant. Our next question is actually from a Loyalty Line existing customer. How do you take your loyalty program beyond points? Ideally building a community and non-monetary value at the same time.
Wow, that's a tough one. So I think first of all about not every program structure is a points program. And that's one of the things I didn't get time to talk about today, but maybe because of the question, is that points are only one mechanism within a structure of a program, and they're not the be all and for every single program. I developed what we call package of benefits programs, where you've got a whole range of offerings. That doesn't necessarily mean there's a points element to it. So I think the essence of it comes back to what's your brand, what's the category, and what's the buying behavior. So all within that, you then have to formulate your program structure. And then if it's a brand that's quite emotionally based, that you can build a community of, you think of pets people love, you can build a community. You can build a community of other areas like hobbies and health and well-being. If you think automotive and some motorbike like Harley Davidson Hogs Group, that there's a community of lovers of a brand. So I have to say, I don't like using the word depends, but it depends on the category and the buying behavior as to how you build a community and add value to their interaction. So it doesn't have to be points, absolutely not.
I think that's an interesting question we get asked quite a lot, because we talk a lot about tell your brand story, or as you say, come together over something that you're passionate about. And I've had jewelry and sort of skincare brands say, well, no one's that passionate about what we're selling. It's not a cycling club, it's not a surfing club like Rip Curls. What do we do here? But I think that people are extremely passionate about jewelry or about skincare, but and you have a brand story there. You've set up your business for a reason, and it's often important to go back to, well, why does this business exist? Where did we come from? Where did we start? What's that story? And actually, how does that link to what our customers care about?
I love what you said, Fiona, and that's absolutely right. The vision for your brand, then the vision for your program. Your program needs to accentuate the vision for your brand. If you've got a vision for your brand, then you can build a program and a community of that. No question about it. You don't have a vision for your brand, you're not quite sure, then you'll struggle. So
Yes,
you're so
yeah.
right.
Yeah, and I think in a past world, one of my past roles, we talked a lot about published and unpublished programs. And the reality is that most programs will be built around points. They will exist in the back end because they have to in order to track where people are up to. But that doesn't mean that your customers need to know about them. You know, the points can be left hidden, and then the surprise and delight is even more prominent. Because
Again, love what you said. Same language. I call it recognize and reward with surprise and delight, which is in essence a covert program. I did one for a hotel group. We got rid of the points. We know we had the data. We could leave a bottle of wine in their room because we know they were on their 20th stay, but there was no overt loyalty program. Pros and cons for all of it, but behind it, like you said, you got the data. You can still tier the customers behind the data. You don't have to have a tiered program. So overt, covert, and exactly what you've said. You can still allocate a currency, but as long as it's hidden, and then drive. But it's a different strategy. It's a different goals for your program, back to goals, and brand goals, and then program.
And I think that often works for the more luxury, sort of maybe lower repeat regularity of purchase as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and low regularity, you don't necessarily have to have what I call a loyalty program. You know, you could have a customer recognition. I've got different names for it that I've been given, but we don't have by definition a loyalty program. We have another strategy because the buying cycle is so long. Think automotives every 7 years. Think there's certain categories that you can still have a customer recognition program, even though the buying cycle, because it's not all about, whilst transactional helps, remember the 6 currencies. You just got to understand the buying behavior and what you wanted, what your goals are. What are your goals? Always go back to that.
I'll be stealing overt and covert. That's much nicer than the one I was phrasing it. Thank you. Fantastic. I think we've got time for one last question, and I'm very interested to hear your thoughts on this. How can you attribute the incremental uplift from loyalty initiatives?
Yeah, look, that is hard. I'm not going to say it's easy, but back to the 11 revenue opportunities, the very first one that I said. So when you're building your program and you've got a set of customers that you're inviting in to become members, bearing in mind when they become a member, you will have some data on their buying behavior, on how much they spend. So when they enter your program, you'll have a base value. Let's just say they're spending on average $100. When they're in your program and you start feeding them with rewards and benefits and points and whatever it is to try and lift them and shift them, it's that moment from their base to their new level of spend over time is the incremental. So it's not before they were a member. They become a member. You've now got a base level. They're a member now, and you're trying to shift and lift them. And if you've got the data and it's attributable to the unique identity, over time you can measure. But it is a challenge. But it's all about the data structure. It's about what the program mechanics and how you report them off your member base. But that is the goal there, is to get the incremental, not the before being a member to after being a member. I believe that's not really a useful metric anymore.
That's very helpful. That's the best way I've had it put. Thank you. Okay, I think even though I could keep this going all day, I'm afraid I'm going to have to call time. I'll be in big trouble if I get us running late this early in the agenda. Adam, any parting thoughts from you?
No, look, I think, first of all, your questions and all the questions from everyone have been terrific. Hopefully they all got some value and some insight and some action they can take on as to whether a loyalty program is right for their business, for their customers. And if it's not, you'll find another way to drive that engagement and that extra spend. So thanks very much for inviting me. And as I always say, have a happy loyalty day.
Adam, thank you so much for your time and for your insight. It's been really refreshing actually to just have what can be a quite complex set of decisions and ideas laid out so clearly. And if you weren't able to take all of that in one hit, then don't worry, we'll be making the recording of this session available so you can revisit in your own time or share with any colleagues you think it might be helpful for as well. So one last big thank you to Adam. And now we are on to our next session, Recession Proofing with Retention, with our very own Ben Pointing, who is COO at Loyalty Line. I encourage everyone to go back to the agenda and join me and Ben for our next presentation. We'll give you a couple of minutes to navigate across and we'll see you there.